coaches or anyone else?
Correct.
Okay, great. And guys, what I'll do, I sent the email to the state of California, all the coaches. What I will do is once that information is available, I'll reply to all on the email that I sent out previous so that you have the links to everything and give you instruction on where to find the information.
I'm going to go ahead and get started. I know it looks like we have about 60 or so that will probably hop on or that who have registered for this event. We are so excited. All four of us are so excited. We've been working on resources for the last couple of, just seems like the last couple of years. We're going to tell you a little bit about high school water polo. My name's Sandy Searcy, and I'm with the National Federation of State High School Associations. I'm the liaison for water polo, and down probably at the bottom of your screen is Angela Williams. She and I are cohorts in crime, and we try to answer all the questions and provide some direction as far as where these things are housed. Also, you will see pictured is Christine Pally. We'll introduce her in just a second. And Levon, I don't think Levon needs an introduction. Most folks in California already know who Levon is, but he's graciously agreed. He's collected some video over the course of the last 10, 11 months, and he's going to go through some of the rule changes, most of the rule changes actually, and just show you some video and try to give you some resources as you educate your officials, coaches, you educate yourselves and your athletes. And I know that there are some administrators on the call as well. So we really appreciate you taking the time to join us. As we talked, maybe before some of you got on this Zoom meeting, the recording will be posted, and it will be posted on the NFHS YouTube channel. And we will also post the PowerPoint as well as the videos. So for those of you who just got on, if you go to the chat, we posted several times the link to the videos. So if you need an additional copy of the link, let Angela know. Angela's going to be manning the chat feature, and Christine and I will be manning the Q&A part so that we can keep Levon on task as he goes through these things. How to ask a question, I kind of alluded to that just a minute ago. You've got the Q&A and you've got the chat feature. So whatever you feel most comfortable with, please feel free. I think our system will be today that as Levon goes through the slides, we will pause briefly after each slide to see if there are any questions. Sometimes you think of a question later on. So after, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 slides, we'll pause again and then see if there are any questions out there. This is basically, we called it a discussion forum, but it's basically a tutorial, but it does give you, the user, the opportunity to ask questions and get the information that you need. So with that being said, I think I got ahead of myself actually. Hold on a second. Here's how you ask a question. So we just talked about that, but be persistent. If your question's not answered, ask it again, and we'll try to get everybody's questions answered. There is our contact information. Our office is housed in Indianapolis, right next to the NCAA building. Those are our phone numbers and email addresses. So if you have any questions throughout the seasons, we encourage you to go through your state associations. Typically, if we receive a question from a coach or an official or a parent, we direct them back to their state association so that they can answer those specific questions. Each state association is responsible for interpreting the rules of that sport. And so while we can give the national guidance, the rules may be just a little bit different in your state. So we recommend that you reach out to your state association administrator responsible for water polo. Little bit of information. We're not sure what you know about the high school association because this is the first time we've ever done this. Just recently, we were ratified as a sport that is officially recognized by the National Federation. And so it's kind of exciting, but with that comes some tools that we can provide to you, meaning the PowerPoints and Zoom presentations and rule interpretations and that kind of thing. So we weren't quite sure how familiar you were with the National Federation, but just as a primer, our country's separated into 8 different sections, as you can see here on the map. We do write the playing rules for 17 high school sports for boys and girls. And just so you know, we have 9 states that officially recognize water polo. 3 of them, actually 4 of them, have developed state championships, have sponsored state championships. I believe Texas is the newest state. I know there was a lot of encouragement for Texas to recognize water polo as a state association sport. So that's really good news. But you know, it's all over the map as far as where those states are located. The ones that the states that conduct state championships are California, Florida, Illinois, and Hawaii hosts a state championship for girls, I believe. And so, and now this year we'll have Texas on board. So that's fantastic. So this is something we call the Rules Review Committee. And basically these are all the editors in the National Federation office. And we all have a certain number of sports, and our committees that are selected from representatives from each section. So there's 11 committee members, and the committee meets each year. You probably are aware that recently water polo went to a 2-year rule book. Our water polo rule committee meets every year, but obviously only addresses rule proposals every other year. So that's kind of a nuance to water polo, but those are the folks in our office when we get back to the office, because most of us are working virtually at this point. This is the Water Polo Rules Committee. I cannot tell you enough about the work that was put into providing the resources for you this year. We started looking at national trends of the sport and what was happening at the national level as far as rule changes in the direction that water polo was headed. We started addressing that last year. So this is kind of a 2-year work in progress. But as you can see, we have representation from the 3 states that sponsor state championships for boys and girls. And eventually we'll have representatives from Hawaii and Texas as well, very soon. But our chair is Christine Pally, and I'm going to turn it over to her. She's going to talk a little bit about some of the resources, and then we'll turn it over to Lavon.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me here today. I don't want to take up too much of your time, but just want to introduce myself. I'm Christine Pally. I'm an assistant commissioner in the Southern section. I've been there, gosh, this is 14 years now. Previous, I was a math teacher and an athletic director, swimming and water polo coach down in Mission Viejo at Mission Viejo High School. Kind of went through the ranks in that direction and was fortunate enough to start working for CIF. And what's a little bit different with the state of California versus a state like Indiana, we're a federation, not an association. So we're broken up into 10 sections, and we have different leadership in each section. So sometimes getting rule changes and different things done can be quite a bear. The neat thing is we have some great advisory groups in the state of California, especially in the Southern section, where coaches actually have a seat at the table, and the rule books that you see in front of you on the national level, you as coaches have the ability to propose change. And I think that's the neatest thing about interscholastic athletics, is the opportunity to have your voice heard, where rules are made from the bottom up and not from, the top down, like in some of our club sports. So, a lot of these rule changes that you see here today, they were the genesis of 2 years of discussion, a lot of looks at what the trend is, as Sandy said, nationally, looking at what FINA's doing, and also just recognizing that not all FINA rules are appropriate for high school sports. So there was a question earlier in the chat regarding the reset of a shot clock to 20 seconds if a team on offense retains the ball, and some of the more complicated things. And I think about a high school table, where it's the freshman running the clock, and imagine some of those things that might not lend itself to high school. So, there is a group of coaches, again, that are both involved at the club and the high school levels that help determine what is appropriate to forward on for a national consideration. So it's been a labor of love for the last couple years. We got some things passed and some things that weren't supported. So today, the greatest part is having Lavon Dermingian here. And for those of you out of state that may not know him, he is the national manager for referees for USA Water Polo. But in the high school realm, he's our state rules interpreter. And he also is part of the LA SCAF board and leadership there. So he has, the roles at his local level through the state all the way up to the national level. So we're really, really fortunate to have him here today to help kind of demystify a little bit of this and really allow you to ask some questions if there's anything that you may have questions regarding. Next slide. One thing, just in case you're not aware, there is a rules application that the NFHS offers. You can get your rule books right there through an app, which is awesome. Don't have to carry the paper bound around. Being in aquatics, sometimes the water in those books, they're not exactly friends. So having it at your fingertips, they're searchable. You can put bookmarks in certain sections. So if your section about exclusions is one that you want to be able to find often and quickly, you can absolutely do that. There's quizzes for the sports regarding the rules. It's kind of fun. You can give those to your kids and see what they know. But it's a really easy book to navigate in the electronic format. It's you can get it immediately as you purchase that rule book on the app, and there's some information there on where you can actually get information on those books. Next slide. Okay, so where are we with high school sports? I know, again, we're kind of spread throughout the country, and I think just the state of everything is different depending on where you are. In the state of California, we are not currently playing any high school sports. I know across the nation, there were 36 states that reportedly finished fall seasons and have gone through. I know it's extremely frustrating. It's frustrating for us too as a state association, and I'm hoping that just some of this information exposing you to it will help you understand why we aren't playing, and it's not because of a lack of effort on your state association's part or the CIF local or state's part. Right now, we aren't the ones that are able to dictate when we're going to play. So when all of this came down last spring, we were at the mercy of the California Department of Public Health, and they're the ones that are in our state driving the schedule of when and what will happen. So what we did, we as a state association had to decide, how long do we want to postpone this? Let's be prepared for everything. So what we did was we developed a calendar thinking that things would be settled kind of by this time. And we're technically supposed to be starting here mid-December. Unfortunately, because of the directive from the California State Department of Education, and if other states are not playing, I'm sure it's from your local government officials. They're the ones that are creating all of the guidelines and the mandates. So starts at that state level. Then each county, depending on where they are in terms of COVID and COVID safety, they'll have specific regulations. There may be some counties that do not have widespread cases versus someone a few hundred miles north, and it may be a lot more dense of an area. So it just depends on where you are. So your county would be that next level of determination. Then it goes to the County Department of Education and what they feel safe allowing kids to do. And there's a trickle down effect. So from the county's Department of Education, it goes down to each school district, or if you're at a private school, your school board, and they're kind of under the mandates of that hierarchy as well. Then a school principal would have to decide, what do I feel comfortable with given my facilities and the equipment that I have and my coaching staff and the hours available in the specific facilities that I use. Maybe some of you have to use off-campus facilities. So now you're dealing with city mandates and city pools. And again, every sport is doing the same thing. And then, you know, each coaching staff, they have to decide what they feel comfortable with offering. So it's hard because there's so much out there on social media. Let the kids play. What is CIF doing? Guys, if it were up to us and your state associations, we would love to have kids playing, and we're very aware of what high school sports means to the kids and to the coaches. And we are doing the best that we can to lobby. We've literally hired lobbyists that are in Sacramento trying to speak to anybody that they can about you know, testing and ways that we can make this safe. So it's all in the hands of your local Department of Public Health, and trust me, everybody is lobbying for these kids to get back out doing what they love. So be patient and be safe. When you do get that green light, just know that everyone's doing everything they can to get everyone back in the gyms and on the courts and on the fields. And we really, really appreciate just the patience and everything that you guys, the dedication, everything that you guys are doing for your kids in the meantime. So it could be conditioning. It could just be, you know, chatting and sending emails and maybe seeing each other via Zoom, but those kids need you guys and you're very valuable.
I would suggest that all of you keep going back to the Q&As. There's some really good questions being asked there. And of course, we will verbalize what's in the chat. And if there's something, some question that's asked that could be helpful to the entire group, we'll verbalize that as well. But you might want to keep checking back. I think, Christine, did you have any more?
I'm sorry, I have two quick questions in chat. Are we going to add water polo quizzes to the Rule app?
That's probably the next step. That's a great question. And I would, yes, the answer is yes. I can't tell you when, but yes, that's the next step.
And then the other question I have, is it possible to run a CVAA bubble league since you're from our area? I'm not sure what that CVAA bubble is.
Maybe whoever asked that, if you could put a little bit more explanation in the chat, and we can answer that at the next break. Good enough?
You're muted, Sandy.
Right, I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that Levon can put his screen up. Christine, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Did you have anything else you'd like to share?
Oh, no, just again, thank you all for being here. I highly suggest if you find this information valuable that you share with assistant coaches. And I know some folks are even going to share it with their teams, with their kids, with their team captains. So I've heard the gamut of sharing and exposure. And I really hope that we can continue this type of forum for coaches. I think, you know, this is a great way to grow our sport and to be professional and learn in a professional manner. And I just thank you again. Thanks for being here.
I'd like to echo what Christine said as well. I think there can be more opportunities to talk about things such as return to the pool protocol in COVID. I mean, there are lots of things we could talk about if there's an interest. Like I said, first time around, so we're just seeing what the needs are out there of our membership. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing.
Thanks, Andy. Thanks, Christine. It's a pleasure to be with you all today. Thank you, Christine, for that nice introduction. Appreciate it. I can't say how thankful I am to Christine and Sandy for all the work that they do as well, helping us with the rules. So really, really appreciative on that. I see a lot of familiar names. Thank you so much for being on. It's a pleasure to be with you all. I hope all of you are doing well. Let me go ahead and share my screen so we can get started here. Okay. Okay, so first things first, the markers. The markers for the pool, the field of play have changed. For those of you who are familiar with the new rules, who have experienced the new rules with USA Water Polo for those brief few months in the beginning of the year, this will all be very familiar to you. But if not, this is going to be a little bit interesting for you. So first things first, the 6 meter line is now introduced. There's a 6 meter line now introduced. So it becomes now the 2 meter line, and the old 5 meter line is now essentially the new 6 meter line. So things that are happening within the within the 5 meter area or outside of the 5 meter area, now everything referenced to 5 meter is now 6 meter. So the 5 meter line is now only used to take penalty shots, and that is it. Everything else throughout the game is the 2 meter line and the 6 meter line now. So the markings now, and I'll share with you the lane lines as well. So the markings for the cones would now be red for the 2 meter line or yellow for the 6 meter line, and there would be a red cone for the 5 meter line. For your lane line markings, it would be red from the, I think I have a little here. No, I didn't, but I thought I mentioned. So it would be red from the goal line to the 2 meter line. And then from the 2 meter line to the 6 meter line is all yellow. And then there would just be a red marker for that 5 meter line. Want me to pause there, or should I do one more? I can do one more while, because this is all about the markings. So let me keep going. Maybe I'll finish out the markings and then we can take questions. So because now there's a new 6 meter area, so everything changes that had any reference to that 5 meter line, which including the new penalty area is now in the 6 meter area. Coaches may advance to the 6 meter line when they coach on offense, and then goalkeepers lose their privileges outside of the 6 meter area. So they cannot use 2 hands and they cannot stand on the bottom of the pool. And just for your reference, here is a water polo course. And as you'll see, there's that little red marker on the sides here to indicate the 5 meter line. Everything else is yellow between the 2 meter line and the 6 meter line. The other markings are still the same. Half is a white cone, goal line is white markings. Everything else is the same. Before moving on, any questions about pool markings?
Christine, there are a couple in the Q&A if you want to grab those.
Yeah, Levon, they will need some kind of a marking at the 5 and the 6, correct?
Yes.
And it doesn't have to be permanent. It can be tile deck, it can be paint on the deck, it can be a cone, correct?
Absolutely. Any markings that are visible to the players, the coaches, referees, of course. Yes.
Perfect.
What about the lanes, the markers that are pre-done?
That are a certain color.
Yeah.
Right. So with those, I think they call them buoys, donuts, however you want to call them. What I've been told is that those can be redone. So if you'd like to add, or let's say for the 6 meter line, you would add more yellow to the lane line, or what you can do is also paint one of them, or tape one of the buoys to make it red to help you out there. So there's a couple of options. I would say maybe contact the manufacturer of the lane lines to help you out there. But what I would do is, if you just have the traditional lane lines of the 2 and the 5, is maybe the last yellow buoy you would tape or paint red, And then from there, maybe just put a yellow cone a meter away to signal that that is the 6 meter line. And then that red is the 5 meter line.
And just as a reminder, I mean, as a beaded necklace, right? A lane line can be unbeaded. So if you got a couple of the extra floats that mark that 6 meter line, and then you just restring the beads onto your onto your lane line, that can be done pretty easily. If you wanted something that were more of like a sideline on a lane line marker.
Right. Any other questions before moving on?
I'm looking through here, Levon. What color cone will the 6 meter be?
Yellow. So again,
Yellow?
it'll be red for 2 meters, red for the 5 meter, and then yellow for the 6 meter line.
One of the other questions, Levon, sorry, does this include the shallow end goalie can now go to the 6 meter? Leah's asking.
Yes. So you can use the bottom up to 6 meters if you're a goalkeeper.
One of the questions, do we need to cover up the old tile markings on the walls, or can we just use the cones?
I would definitely cover if it's to avoid confusion. If there are markers that should not or do not align to what the new course is, the new markings, I would definitely make an effort to cover those to minimize confusion.
That's all I have.
Okay, and we can, if there's more questions, we can always come back, so not a problem. Other equipment. So a soft padded cap is now permitted. And, we remove that only a water polo cap, a swim cap is allowed underneath a water polo cap. You can, those little, I forget, I don't know exactly what they're called, but they're these swim cap looking things with little bubbles on them that you can wear. As long as you can wear a water polo cap over your swim cap and with those bubbles as well, that's not a problem. But they should conform to the rules. If the goalkeeper is wearing red, it should closely match the color of the water polo cap. But it is allowed, and it is now in the rule book. So any questions on that?
Other than somebody said it's called a waffle cap.
Is that what it's called? Okay,
That's to know.
yeah. That's good to know. Waffle cap. Okay, that's good to know.
Levon, here's something backing up for the previous slide. Do you have any resources for lane line restringing? Everything I found suggests it's not a simple process, but very involved and labor time intensive.
Unfortunately, I don't. Maybe I don't know if Christine does, but I would just maybe try to reach out to the manufacturer to see if they have something that they can assist with. So just to elaborate a little bit further on this, so we got to make, so if a soft padded cap is going to be used as a water polo cap, it has to conform to the cap's rules. So things like, whether they're quartered properly, whether they have a third number on the back of the cap, all the things that are in the caps section that they must have, that soft padded cap must have it as well. So things of that nature, just to clarify a little bit further.
Okay, we're good.
Okay, moving on. Okay, shot for the, well, I guess it could be the timekeeper or the secretary. It says 30 like shot clock, the duties, that's under the section, but the scorekeeper shall be provided the full names of the players and the officials at least 15 minutes prior to the start of the contest. So the rationale behind this was that too often games would start with no information whatsoever in the book. Next thing you know, an incident would occur that the referee would then have to report to their state association. They go to the book and they see that there's absolutely no information regarding who the player is. And it just it doesn't make sense that in this day and age, any kind of contest would start without, at the very least, rosters in a score sheet to say who's playing. And in this case, now we included officials' names as well, so that there's any issues that you would know the officials' names as well. So with the other information, as you see, the date, the place, the starting time, things of that nature, also the full players' names and the referees' names would be in the score sheet. So I would advise, to make it easier for all the coaches out there, just have a copies of a roster ready to go. And once you get onto the pool deck, maybe just hand a roster to or leave a roster out at the table, so that they could enter the names. So any questions on this one? Pretty simple.
Levon, one of the neater things I've seen, just to make it easy, I've seen a coach just have basically a list of all his players, top to bottom, and it was like an Excel spreadsheet, 2 columns, 3 columns, depending on how many levels you had. And then all the coach had to do, like, just had multiple copies. When they go to a game, they'd put a check mark in the kids that were playing varsity, a check mark in the kids that were playing junior varsity, a check mark next to the names that were playing. So like three columns after the names with the levels at the top. But I thought that was pretty efficient because it was quick and they never had to write in the book.
Absolutely. That sounds way better. If that's the case, that would work out so much better. So that's a great suggestion. Absolutely.
Levon, I know that Angela probably has, I'm looking at both the chats and the Q&A. We've got some instruction going on in the Q&A about Allen wrenches and things to help you restring lines. And I don't know, Angela, I'll let you ask your question.
Sure. In the chat, we actually have a link of what it looks like to do some restringing. I actually saved that for Sandy. And then, yes, you can restring the lane line. It just takes a very long time. Every individual donut in order, one at a time, while keeping the line taut. So
anyway, if somebody wants to go in the chat, it's from Dan Way, and grab that link, that might be helpful to you.
yes.
That's all I have.
I didn't want to miss the comment about the bubble. The coaches in the section, and it was formerly from Mission Viejo. It was comprised of Saddleback, Capistrano school districts in Southern Orange County. That's where that bubble question came from.
So we had a comment, can we get through the rule changes? I guess that means hurry up. So we'll
Okay.
do. We're working on it.
Okay, here we go. So next is interval time. So previously there was only 4 instances where it was considered interval time, formerly known as dead time. Now we've added an additional interval time, which is anytime a referee removes the ball out of the water, this is now considered interval time. So replacing a cap, issuing cards, fixing a clock error, anything of that nature, if anything occurs, that would be considered interval time. And of course, there are certain calls that would be different depending on when it occurs, right? So let's say, for example, misconduct. If a misconduct occurred during interval time, the penalty is a little different. There's no one's in the box during interval time. They would start, you would start the game 6-on-6, or 7-on-7. But yeah, so those were the 4 previous are listed there. Now the 5th is anytime the referee removes the ball out of the water. I guess I can keep going maybe, and then I can backtrack if there's a question.
Yes.
Yeah, no problem. Goalkeeper privileges. So no longer is the goalkeeper restricted to their half of the field of play. Goalkeepers are now allowed to go beyond half and to participate as any other player would in the game. And if your state association has a shootout, any kind of shootout clause, they would be able to be a shooter in a shootout as well. Just a little clarifications. This does not mean that a goalkeeper can be substituted for a 7th field player. If you have a goalkeeper, 1 player must be a goalkeeper. If you have enough players, there must be a goalkeeper in the field of play with a goalkeeper cap. Just want to remind everybody that the goalkeeper is allowed and can commit an ordinary foul just like any other player. So one of the things that we would get is that, hey, now because the cage is wide open, does that mean now every foul is an exclusion, or is every foul, is it a penalty? And of course, it wouldn't be a penalty because it need to be inside of 6 meters for the foul. But no, they are allowed to commit an ordinary foul just like anybody else. So that has no bearing that the cage is open. Yeah, but I think the one we get the most is the 7th field player, and that one is not allowed. Okay, moving on. Clarification here, goals, how scored. It basically means we're clarifying that anytime that there's a foul inside of 6 meters, or if the ball is inside of 6 meters at the time the foul occurs, that 2 players must intentionally play or touch the ball before that player is allowed to shoot and score a goal. There's a little bit of a difference on this one compared to what international is doing and what because this question came up for us as well, and we decided to, we talked with many of with NC2A rules committee. We talked to we looked at precedent before, and it is intentionally play or touch the ball. So if a player is fouled inside of 6, the defender now gives their space. They then put the ball in play like they should. Now, if the defender re-engages, if that defender now touches the ball, intentionally plays or touches the ball, that player is now able to shoot and score a goal without ever passing the ball. So yeah, so this just clarifies that you must intentionally play or touch the ball, at least 2 players inside of 6 before a goal could be scored. I know that might be a little confusing, so please go ahead and ask away.
Go ahead, Angela.
Sure. If a goalie commits a foul to prevent a goal in their defense half, is it still a penalty, correct?
If it is within the 6 meter area, the defending 6 meter area, and they commit a foul that takes away a probable goal, yes. I was referring more to the fact of them joining the attack on the other side of half. And when a foul would occur on that side of half, let's say if the ball turned over, not every foul would be an exclusion foul, and it wouldn't be a penalty because they would not be inside the 6 meter area.
So were you saying that another player can't move into the goal to block the ball, even though he uses one hand to block if the goalie came out for some reason on an attack?
This was not in regards to anybody defending a goal or any player. This was just in regards to if the goalkeeper joined the attack so on the other side of the pool, now they're a part of the attack. If the ball turned over and they would go and foul someone, a referee would not automatically assume that now that foul, or would not automatically consider that to be an exclusion foul or a penalty foul just because there's an open cage on the other side of the pool. So that's the only reference I was making. Not, of course, any player would be able to go inside of the cage and use one hand, not a problem, to block a shot.
So on the roster, do we have to have 2 goalies?
No, you don't need to have 2 goals. You can only have, if your team only has 1 goalkeeper, you only have 1 goalkeeper. Or if you have 10 of them, you can have 10 goalkeepers as long as you have enough caps, goalkeeper caps. So,
okay,
yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
That's all on my end. You must
Okay.
be doing a good job, Levon.
Or everybody's familiar with it. Many of them are still familiar with this, so it's good. So goals, how they're scored has changed. Now players are allowed to put themselves live, make the ball live, put the ball in play, and then shoot and score without ever passing the ball. And here are the times that you are allowed to shoot and score a goal after you put the ball in play. One of the things that we get a lot about, confusing, is after a goal and after timeout. Are they allowed to shoot and score? And the answer is yes. As long as the reset of play occurs outside of 6 meters, they're allowed to shoot, put the ball in play, shoot and score. So if the restart occurs inside of 6, you would not be able to do that. So for example, a neutral throw. So referee calls a neutral throw. and the neutral throw is being conducted inside of 6 meters, now that player cannot put themselves live and shoot and score. But if the neutral throw was conducted outside, a player could tip the ball to themselves, put the ball in play clearly, and then swim all the way to the cage, shoot and score. They would not need to pass the ball. So the only time where you would be allowed to shoot after putting the ball in play inside of 6 meters is a corner throw. That's the only time. So let's say, for example, after a timeout, the ball is being placed on a corner throw, because that's when the ball timeout was called. So let's say there was a corner throw was called, the team on offense called a timeout, so the throw must be taken on the corner throw. Yes, after a timeout, that player could put the ball in play from a corner throw, then shoot and score without ever passing the ball. So the most common, of course, is the foul outside of 6, which is, now the new area, 6 meters. The one caveat, of course, it has to be the foul and the ball must be outside of 6 meters for the player to be eligible to shoot directly, or to put the ball in play and then shoot. So if one or another is not, so foul's inside of 6, ball's outside, you cannot shoot. If the foul's outside of 6 and the ball's inside of 6, you cannot shoot. Both must be outside of the 6 meter area.
I've got a couple.
Yep, please.
What if you're doing a move and the ball hits the other team player, does that make the ball able to be shot?
No, it has to be intentionally played. So the reason why, because of that is, we see in basketball all the time, right? Somebody will throw the ball to the back and it'll bounce it off someone's back and get the ball back, shoot and score. Same concept. You in water polo, you're not allowed to, let's say, bounce it off of someone, or if it's even if it's unintentionally, just if somebody touches it, it has to be intentionally played or touched by 2 players.
Okay, I'm not sure that I understand this one, but it says the 2 players touching in relation to 6 meters. Maybe that's in an answer to another question. Does that make sense?
That might have been.
You may have covered it.
Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah, the one inside of 6.
Can you re-explain interference with a free pass inside 6 meters?
Well, interference hasn't changed. Interference is still the same. So if you foul a defender, regardless of where you are, you have to back away a meter to raise a hand. And of course, you cannot come forward until that player puts the ball in play, or the ball is released out of the player's hand. So those have not changed. Still the same.
I feel like we're in jeopardy, that you're just providing all these answers and quick
Yeah.
swimming. Can you
not a problem.
Can you score off the sprint without anyone else touching the ball now?
Yes. So right here, D, at the start or restart of play. So, any start, quarter, any kind of start or restart of a play that's outside of the 6 meter area, you can now put the ball in play and shoot.
All right, the ball for 400. To put the ball into play, can you push it slightly under the water and allow it to come up in the air?
The bounce, yeah, no. So we're gonna actually cover this. We have a section on putting the ball in play, and we have videos as well. But no, it has to be clear separation with the ball and the hand. So just a little bouncing to kind of, how the players do to gain leverage, that would not be allowed.
When can a goal be scored without putting the ball into play to yourself? Foul outside of 6 meters, I'm guessing.
So I'm assuming that the question is about direct shots then. So a direct shot, there's only 3 times where a ball would be able to be shot directly, right? One is, of course, a foul outside of 6. You get a foul without any hesitation or anything. You just pick up the ball and shoot right away. Another time now is at the corner throw. So if the ball comes in from a corner throw, you can pick up the ball, shoot and score right away. And the other time is a goal throw. So, let's say a ball is shot, goes high, the referee turns the ball over. The ball comes in from the bench to the goalkeeper or another player inside of the 2 meter area. That player can now pick up the ball and shoot directly right away. So those are the 3 times where you can shoot directly and score.
Levon, can a player steal the ball as the other player is making it live, is throwing it in the air to make it live? Can the defensive player steal it as the player is making it live?
Right. So the ball becomes live once the ball releases out of the hand. So a player has to be careful of their timing, because if they come forward before that ball is released and they interfere, it should be an interference. So just as long as that ball releases out of the hand, once it's out of the hand, then they are able to play the ball.
And then speaking of interference, somebody's asking if you said that after an interference inside the 6, that the ball is now live.
No, interference would be an exclusion. So no, I was referring to is if there were a foul occurred inside a 6, and then the ball was properly put in play, and the defender gave the space that they're supposed to. Once the ball is put in play, and then the defender re-engages, once that defender now intentionally plays or touches the ball, that player is now eligible to shoot and score because the 2 players intentionally touch or played the ball. However, if that never occurs, if let's say they just go and they press, that player must now pass the ball before the ball is shot and scored.
And
So,
then, oh, sorry, go ahead, Sandy.
I was just going to ask Levon, if any of these questions can be answered with video that's coming up, please just say so, like you did the first time.
Yeah, so the videos that we're going to discuss are the ways to put the ball in play. So if you have any questions regarding that, we'll be answering them then. And then also the new rule with a foul out from behind inside of 6 meters. That is a new penalty foul rule. We have several videos on that we're going to be discussing in depth. So
that sounds good. Robert says video will help. So maybe we kind of hold off on some of these and regroup once we were looking at the videos.
Sure.
Levon, how much will the 1 meter rule apply if a player can't do anything with the ball until the defender backs off? Will the referees give a signal to play unless it's a direct shot? Or how much will them backing up that 1 meter, how much will that come into play?
Well, it would have to every foul. So if you're going to raise a hand, you have to back away a meter to raise that hand. But the rules do state that the referees are to hold the signal of the direction of attack, and then they lower their hand once the ball is put into play. So in theory, it has to be one or the other, right? So either the referee is going to have the hand up, which means you cannot repress, or they're going to have their hand down and you can. The only thing here is that I should just caution everyone, the coaches, is that sometimes referees do make that mistake. Sometimes they hold it a little longer than they should. Sometimes they drop it sooner than they should, and those are not correctable errors. So, it's hopefully that mistake doesn't lead to a disastrous result, hopefully, but they are not correctable. But the rules do state that we are to hold it up and then drop it when they're allowed to when they put it in play. And if they don't put it in play, then of course we have to turn the ball over.
So in a 2 meter situation, the ball is tipped by the goalie. Official puts the ball in play at 2 meters. Can the offender put the ball in play themselves and shoot?
The player, you mean, not the offender. So yeah, so goalkeeper tips it, goes out, corner throw, the player comes to the corner. They have an option to shoot directly, pick up and shoot right away as they would outside for a foul outside of 6, or they are allowed to put the ball in play visibly and then swim anywhere in the field of play and shoot. So basically they've made themselves live.
I think last one. If you're fouled outside the 6, can you put the ball in play and move in the 6 for a direct shot?
Yes. So once you put the ball in play, you can move anywhere right here. So a goal can be scored anywhere after putting the ball in play. So you can swim anywhere in the field of play and shoot and score a goal.
Okay.
Okay. Moving on. If there's more that comes up, please go ahead and ask. We'll come back around to it. Not a problem. New signal for.
One more.
Yeah,
how many
please.
seconds do players need to back off the 1 meter distance after a foul before re-engaging?
Sorry, Sandy, I missed the first part. Can you repeat that?
Sorry. How many seconds do players need to back off the 1 meter distance after a foul before re-engaging?
Yeah, so that rule hasn't changed. Unfortunately, there's no time limit. So the rule says that it shall be a reasonable amount of time at the discretion of the referees. And so what I'll let you know that what we do in certain areas, like let's say for USA Water Polo, for example, and other places, a safe bet would be, if you are a player, is that if you get a foul and you get the ball, you have a brief moment to take a look at the pool, scan who's open, who's not open. And after that brief scan of who can I pass it to, if you don't have anybody to pass it to, then you better put that ball in play. If after that scan you don't put in play, I would say you're probably going beyond that reasonable amount of time that most referees would consider.
Now I'm done.
Okay, so there's a new signal for a referee to signal to everyone that the player is allowed to shoot and score a direct shot for a foul outside of 6. So previously, if it was outside of 5, but within 1 meter of the 5-meter line, the referee would point down to the 5-meter line to say that you are eligible to shoot. Here, now, of course, the rules changed outside of 6, but within 1 meter, if that happens, the referee will now have a hand up in the air to show that the player is eligible to shoot. Again, unfortunately, referee hand signals are not subject to protests as correctable errors. But that is a new signal. The rationale behind this signal is that it's just clear to everyone, right? So depending on previously, when we were pointing down, depending on where you're sitting, especially behind the official, you would not know if the official was pointing or not, if that player was eligible. Here, with the hand up, everyone on the pool deck knows whether that player is eligible to shoot or not. So it's more clear to everybody. Okay, that was easy. And just a reminder again, it has to be within 1 meter. So if a foul occurs at 8, 9 meters and the referee doesn't have a hand up, you know, if you're wondering why not, it's because of that. It has to be within 1 meter for them to indicate that they're eligible to shoot.
Levon, David Albertstein's on. He just wanted to remind people just to be careful about terminology, that the direct shot is the shot taken without putting the ball into play. So once the ball is in play, any shot taken thereafter is not a direct shot. Thank you, David.
Thanks, Dave, for that. Moving to some clarification again for house score. Just as a reminder, at the time of the foul is awarded outside of 6, both the ball and the foul must be outside of 6. If one or the other is not, it cannot be shot directly, nor can it be shot after putting the ball in play. So in order for you to do one of those two, both the ball and the foul must be outside of 6. And when it's not, so let's say if the ball's inside of 6 or the foul is inside of 6, like we just talked about, 2 players must intentionally play the ball before a goal can be scored. Okay,
Good.
corner throw. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Sandy.
No, I said I'm good. No question.
Okay, great. I know we kind of got ahead of ourselves, but here are the official slides for the corner throws. So like we mentioned, the rules on the corner throw have changed. A player is now eligible to shoot directly from a corner throw. They're able to then if they don't shoot directly, they're able to put the ball in play and then shoot, fake and then shoot if they want, or they can swim anywhere in the field of play, shoot and score. What's critical to this rule is because of this, you know, could be a massive advantage depending on where the ball is thrown to. Coaches are going to be asked to throw it onto, because the rule states clearly that the ball needs to go to the side, the nearest to where the ball crossed from the goal line. So if I'm looking at the cage and it went out of bounds on the right side of the cage, that means if the bench is on the left side, the bench has to throw the ball to that side where it went out of bounds. If that does not occur, the referee is going to say that, hey, you need to take it, throw it to the other side of the pool, whatnot, and you would probably get a warning for the first offense from the referee to make sure that the ball is being thrown in the proper location. So this is critical. A lot of referees, we are instructing referees to have a discussion with the captains and the coaches especially in the beginning of the season, to just let you know that This is crucial to this new rule, and we're going to be holding the teams to it so that they throw to the proper side.
Hey, Ryan White, or Levon, Ryan is
Mhm.
asking, why not have the referee place the ball for a corner throw?
Yeah, and honestly, that would be my liking. I think that was one of the things that I was going to suggest the next time around. So let's say a corner throw. I was going to suggest that any corner throw, the ball would have to be given to the referee. I prefer that, but currently now there's nothing that stipulates that the teams must hand the ball to the referees. So in this particular case, yes, there could be referees who are going to request the ball. If there's some referees that don't, just know that it's still the responsibility of the benches to throw the ball in and throw the ball in the proper location.
So verbal warning, then does that become a yellow card or a red card for continued violations, penalty?
Yeah, it definitely could. It definitely could, because again, with this new rule, it's crucial, right? You can all of you on this Zoom can see how it could be a massive advantage or taking away of the advantage, right? So let's say the ball is, you have some kind of numerical advantage. Let's say it was on a counterattack, it was shot and missed. If that ball is thrown on the wrong side, there goes that advantage, right? Because now someone who is not close to that side has to go swim and get the ball, and so it could be tactical, and for that reason, that's why it's so important to throw on the correct side. And if the referee probably will give you just a warning the first time, and then I would definitely say cards would come into play after that, because it's just crucial to the game.
Go, Christine.
If the bench makes a mistake and puts the ball on the wrong side, can the player fix the error?
Well, yeah, not only can the player fix it, the referee will then tell the player you need to throw the ball to the other side, and that's where the free throw would be taken.
And if it's not clear where the ball crossed the goal line, like in the middle of the cage or close to it,
Right, and I would say if because there's so many that just go, center cage, right, or just slightly off, and I think at that point nobody would probably split hairs on that one, and unless of course the referee would then verbalize, say, hey, I want the ball on this side, or I want the ball on that side, would probably be the case. So I would say, if you're not sure, just to maybe hang on for half a second, maybe look to the referee to say, to have some guidance on that, but I don't think the referees are gonna again, like, split hairs on a couple of inches here or there kind of thing. So good question, great question.
Somebody's asking a random rule question. For high school rules, if a foul or turnover is called and the team receiving the ball does not attempt to go for it, will it be a turnover and given to the opposing team?
Yes, so if I'm understanding you correctly, that's basically a delay. So the player nearest to the ball must take the free throw. So if you don't take the free throw, that is a delay, and it is a turnover. While we're on that, let me kind of clarify what I've been hearing many times, and I actually got into a very interesting back and forth with a coach on this rule. Coach was very adamant that a player who was beyond the ball does not need to swim back to get the ball, and there's no such thing. Yes, they do. So there was a question, so, well, my player is now swimming, it should be the next player who comes up and then takes the ball, but that's not the rule. The rule says the nearest player must take the free throw, and if that means to stop and to go back and get the ball, that's what the player has to do. So I just want to clarify that.
So it can't be given to the goalie on a counter.
Oh, I'm sorry. I missed that part. Can you repeat that question?
I just asked it for the first time. So it can't be given to goalie on a counter.
On a counter, can I get a little bit more information? Are we talking about just a contra foul, or are we talking about a goal throw?
Serena will give us some additional information.
Please do.
Can coaches walk behind the cage for a correct placement as opposed to a wild throw?
I would say not to walk behind the cage. I would say if you want to take several steps to go to get a better throw, I would say in all cases, the reentry area, the 2 meters from the side of the pool, is probably as far that a coach should go on the sides of the pool, on the ends of the pool. Anything beyond that, as you're approaching the cage, a referee is probably going to make you go back to the bench area. So I would try to say stick to that area. Definitely not behind the cage. No.
That's all I have
Okay.
right now.
All right, moving on to the next slide. Free throws. Now free throws, now it would make sense of why you cannot shoot when a ball is knocked inside of 6, or if the ball is inside of 6 while the foul is outside of 6, because now the referees are no longer able to dictate where that ball goes, right? So before, a referee, if the ball was knocked inside of 6, the referee would say, hey, back up and take your free throws there. Now that's no longer the case. The free throw is taken where the ball lies, whether it's on offense or on defense, whether it's a contra foul or if it's just in a foul on offense. It must be taken where the ball lies, except when the ball is inside the 2. That's still, you cannot take the free throw inside the 2. We're still going to be asking players to take it on the 2-meter line or outside of the 2-meter line. So now, previously, it was only on a contra foul, right? Or a turnover that we would say, hey, okay, you can pick up and go. On offense, we would still make you bring the ball back. Now it's where it lies everywhere at all times, with the exception of the 2-meter area. Any questions?
I think there's one in chat, like if it is overthrown on a shot right side, does it need to be placed back right side or given to the goalie? Sorry, I'm having trouble finding my wording. Oh, Christine answered that. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry, I didn't see the answer, Christine.
No problem.
Okay.
It became simultaneous. It's fine.
So we're good on that one?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, perfect. So free throws. So yeah, that one, if there's no questions, we'll move on. If there is, please, we'll come back to it. Free throws where taken. So free throws, like we mentioned, must be taken at the spot of the ball. And how is it taken? Clearly and visibly. So here are the examples that are ways you can clearly and visibly put the ball in play. Passing, of course, the ball to another player, dropping the ball from a raised hand onto the water, throwing the ball up in the air, popping the ball up, tossing or placing the ball before swimming with it, and then transferring the ball from one hand to another above the water. Once you do that above the water, it's considered in play, but you are allowed to move the ball from your non-dominant hand on the surface of the water to your dominant hand, and that would not be considered putting the ball in play. So the defender would not be able to attack you when that occurs. But if it's done above water, it's considered in play, and the defender would be able to attack after that. So like we mentioned, the referee does indicate that the ball is in play by dropping their arm from horizontal to vertical to indicate that the ball is in play. Key points here is clearly and visibly. This is where the videos are going to come in. If there's no questions right off the bat, I can go ahead and start playing a couple of videos for everyone. And then, so for those of you who have the link, if my videos are kind of broken up, sometimes that happens on Zoom, it's not very clear, you can follow along using that link that Sandy sent out. So let me stop this screen share and load my.
Oh, here's the link again if anybody needs it.
Thanks, Christine. Let me get this up here. So you should see the playlist like this here. So we're going to start right off the bat. So let's watch this first one. So as you see, it is clear. There's no doubt that the ball popped out of the hand for everyone to see. Let's watch it one more time. She popped it up and then she moved in a little bit and then shot and scored a goal, which is just perfect. So before you move the ball from the location of where it is, you must play the ball. You must put the ball in play first. You cannot move from the location of the ball and then put the ball in play. That is a turnover. That's incorrectly putting the ball in play. So that was I think the clearest example of putting the ball in play. The method that players choose is this particular method. Most players just choose to pop the ball up, is what we've seen. Here's an example of popping the ball up that is incorrect. Let's watch it here. Is video number 2. As you can tell, the difference between the first two, these first two videos, is the first one was clear, very obvious. This one, the gentleman did like a little pop to himself, very small within his hand, couldn't tell if it actually left the hand. So this would be illegal. This would be not putting the ball in play, right? So watch it one more time. Okay. Here is an example of dropping the ball on the surface of the water. Again, clearly dropping it from the hand onto the water. So here's an example of incorrectly putting the ball in play when it comes to swimming. So the ball just turned over here. Here's the ball, and well, let's watch the player. So that should have been a turnover. The player never once picked up the ball and any kind of separation with the ball in hand. You are, with these new rules, you are not allowed to just swim through a ball and keep dribbling. That is incorrectly putting the ball in play. This should have been a turnover that was not called. But one more time. So here, just what that player just did, which is just a little toss away to dump the ball. That's what this player could have done too. You don't necessarily need to just stop and then pop up, and then you can just place the ball, just throw it in front of you or to the side of you, what have you. Any type of separation with the ball in hand that would have been clear, would have been okay, that it was in play. But here was nothing. So, and I think our next video shows an example of placing the ball. Let's watch here. One more time. Oh.
So can you throw the ball in front of you and then put it in play on a counter?
You can throw the ball in front of you, yes, as long as there's clear separation with the hand and the ball. You can do that. So you don't need to stop and then pop the ball up or drop it. You don't need to go vertical, basically, right? You can stay horizontal, just throw the ball in front of you, just as this player did. They placed the ball in front of them on the water, and then picked up and shot the ball.
Okay, we have 7.
Levon, with
7 questions, please.
for direct shot, do both the player and the ball have to be outside of 6? It's got to be both, not one or the other, correct?
For both circumstances. So in order to shoot directly, both have to be outside of 6, and also for you to put the ball in play and then shoot, both must be outside of 6.
Josh is asking also, is there a rule to who has to get to the ball first? I know Levon said that he wants the closest player to, but I do not believe there was a rule for that.
Yeah, there is. Free throw states that the player that's in the best position, or clearly in the best position to take the free throw, is the one that shall take the free throw. So essentially delay of game.
Okay. Do you want to hear the foul on the video?
Oh, sorry. Yeah, I
Sound.
haven't muted here. I will play with sound after. I'm so sorry.
Oh, no worries. Continuing on, wouldn't it be a shot from outside without hesitation?
Could there be a shot outside without hesitation? Yes.
Well, Charles is saying, wouldn't it be a shot from outside without hesitation?
I don't understand. Sorry. What is?
Yeah, it was 4 minutes ago. Sorry, Charles. Maybe you can re-ask the question. In reference to the ref dropping their arm, which referee should the players, defenders be focused on?
I would say the referee who called the foul is the one that would be in charge of administering the free throw. So to look to the referee who called the foul.
Can these videos be made public on YouTube? We're working on that.
Yeah. This is my own personal account that I've uploaded this video, and these videos are courtesy of FINA Water Polo, which is our national governing body. That is whose videos we're using today. So yeah, and sorry about the volume. I'll if there's no other questions, I'll continue, but then I'll play the sound with it. Sorry about that.
I have a comment. I don't think it's a question, it's more of a comment. Hoping that there is a lot of training and emphasis with the ref fundamental hand signals, seeing how they dictate when the clock starts and if the ball is out of side of 6 and when the ball is in play.
Yeah, it's crucial. There's no doubt about it. And we tell our referees, we instruct our referees, we have schools, and we show these videos and we talk to them about it. So yeah, agreed.
Last one for this side. Can you drag and pull and before shooting, pop the ball?
Can you drag and pull before popping and shooting?
Before shooting, pop the ball.
So as long as you don't, so the free throw must be taken at the location of the ball. So as long as you don't move that ball to another location, that's where you get, that's where it would be incorrect. That would be illegal. So if I'm understanding what the first part of the meaning is, then that would seem like it's illegal, because you would be moving the location of the ball before you put it in play.
Can you simulate a direct fake shot and then pop the ball?
Yes. So what has happened in the past, in previous interpretations, especially on the FINA USA water polo side, is that previously, if you were to get a foul and then you would come up and you would pump fake and not pass it, it was considered an automatic turnover. The reason behind that is that the ruling would state you have to put the ball in play immediately. But here for us in NFHS, and now in FINA and USA water polo as well, the rule is that you have a reasonable time to put the ball in play. And so it is not an automatic turnover if you come up and fake, but I would say that you should know that if you come up and you do a big pump fake and then you come back down, this takes away the time that you have that's considered a reasonable amount of time, right? So now you have less time to put that ball in play. So what I would advise is that if you come up and you do that big pump fake and then you come back down, almost immediately after that, within the next split second or second, you better pass that ball, because your time of reasonable is probably running out in the eyes of that referee. But it's not an automatic.
I'm good.
Okay. So let's go back to our slideshow, and then we're going to come back to some penalty videos when we're on that topic. Okay, exclusion fouls, re-entry. So a change in the goalkeeper when it comes to 6-on-5s, when it comes to exclusion. So previously, when a goalkeeper was excluded, it was considered not only was the player excluded, it was the position that was excluded as well. So you couldn't have a backup goalkeeper come in. But in this case, that's no longer the case. It's just a player who's excluded, and a backup goalkeeper can be substituted in. And of course, this is where it kind of gets a little confusing to some people, is that, you would have to move, of course, a field player in to the re-entry area before that backup goalkeeper would be able to come back in. So, if this is happening lifetime, this would be very difficult, right? I guess if you are a very savvy team and coach, you can maybe get the player that's closest to the re-entry to quickly swim in while the backup goalkeeper does a lifetime sub. But yeah, so just know that it's no longer the position, it's just a player, and a backup goalkeeper is allowed to be substituted into the game. Any questions on that one? I know that one could be a little confusing.
yet.
Okay. Enforcement. We're talking about the player in the field of play. Previously, a player who was playing during the game would not be able to leave anywhere during live time, with the exception of the reentry area to do a live time substitution. If they left anywhere else underneath the sideline, it was considered an exclusion. We got rid of that. Now a player is allowed to leave under the sideline anywhere, and it would not be an exclusion foul. So the only thing is that they would have to now swim and re-enter at the proper location, which is in the re-entry area of their team. Either them or their substitute, they would have to swim there first before their substitute is allowed to re-enter. The rationale behind this was safety, mainly, is that many times, a player could be hurt, they have a cramp, they want to get to a wall, but they might think that, oh, I can't leave this field of play. So just, no penalty to leave, but if you do, you must re-enter properly, which is in your re-entry area. Of course, the only time that you don't need to swim to your re-entry area is if one of the three following here happen, right? So if a goal is scored, players can enter from anywhere. If after a timeout, players could enter from anywhere. And of course, at the end of the period, because you'll be having a sprint the next period, that won't matter anymore. So just know that no longer is there a penalty for leaving the sideline or goal line. One thing I don't want people to confuse this with is leaving the pool and leaving the water. That has not changed. So if you have a course that has no lane lines and you just have a dive tank with 4 walls, any type of leaving the water is still considered a game exclusion for the player. So you don't have that benefit if you don't have sidelines, right? So in the pools with sidelines, you go underneath the sideline, okay, no problem. But once you then step out of the water, you're now gone for the game for leaving the water. So that still has not changed. Any questions on this one? Okay. Tactical foul, direct shot. So because of this new rule, which you are allowed to put the ball in play and shoot from anywhere, and also the new rule where we play the ball where it lies, we as referees no longer have the ability to say, no, you can bring the ball back and take the foul take the free throw where the foul occurred. We don't have that luxury. It must be taken where the ball lies. Because of this, a new rule was passed for tactical fouls, which means that you are not able to foul and then after the whistle tactically either throw the ball away, move the ball inside of 6 meters, or toss the ball further away. And then, of course, there's some instances we're going to watch a video where actually players have physically picked up the ball and thrown the ball, which is not allowed. So these are now exclusion fouls to commit this tactical foul. And if the tactical foul occurs within the last minute of the game to prevent a goal, a penalty foul is awarded. So what does it mean for the final minute of the game? The final minute of the game is defined as the last minute of the 4th quarter, the last minute of the 2nd overtime period, or any sudden victory period. So if that happens in the last minute of one of those periods, it is now a penalty foul. Any questions?
Yes, you're going to have to stay with me on this one. If I
Perfect.
put an opponent's hand and ball underwater, initiating a ball under turnover as the foul is being called, I leave on a counterattack, but I'm technically the closest player to the ball. Do I need to stop my counterattack to return to the ball for the free throw? If so, wouldn't that stand in opposition to the advantage rule?
I'm not sure I understand the situation entirely. So, okay, you have a ball under, and after that, what was it? So I have a ball under, and then on the counterattack,
I leave on a counterattack, but I'm technically the closest player to the ball. Do I need to stop my counterattack to return to the ball for the free throw?
technically, yes. Okay, sorry. So yes, you do. So if you did the ball under, technically, yes, you are probably going to be the closest player to that ball. you would then need to stop that counterattack and go back and get that ball. I understand the argument that it is, some argument have made that it's not in the spirit of the game. But then on the flip side, the flip argument is that because there's a clear rule that the closest player must play that ball, by a referee not calling that, it's seen as the referee is now creating offense, right? So let's say a player who now gains this massive advantage on a counterattack to just go score a goal, the opposing coach would have a very valid argument that this was created because the referee did not apply the rule that they should have, which means that that player needs to go back and get that ball. So I see argument on both sides. The only thing that we as referees, we have a clear rule and we must follow that rule. It's clearly written. So.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, if there's nothing else, I want to quickly, or if there's more, I have a quick tactical foul video that I would like to share, and it's the only one that I have. So let me go back to YouTube. It should be the last on our list on YouTube. There we go. So scroll down, tactical foul, the last one on the list. Let's take a look. Let me Oh, 1 second here. I love the reaction. Okay, so sorry, I had to take out my AirPods because I think the volume doesn't come through unless my AirPods are out. So let's repeat here. And then if you notice, the coaches up here are clapping, right? Because it's a tactic. And the tactic was that here it is. It's the last probably few seconds of the game. A direct shot was likely. So this player then they risk the fact of them being excluded is not a problem for them. So then this player picks up the ball, throws it here, because now the free throw must be taken here. And so now the likelihood of a goal being scored is, not very likely. So because of this, that's why one of the reasons why the tactical rule was put into place. Now the referee would be able to call a penalty in that situation.
Levon, quick question. Does the last minute rule for the tactical foul apply to every possession of sudden victory?
No, it would apply to the last minute of sudden victory. Yeah. That's a great question. That's one that we've been asked. And I see the logic, but unfortunately with the way the rule is written, it does not allow us to consider any other time as a period that a penalty foul would be called.
No more.
Okay, moving on to the next. Okay, this one's always a fun one. Attacking a player from behind within 6 meters. So there's a new rule now that it shall be a penalty foul for a defending player to foul or impede an attacking player from behind within 6 meters in a probable goal situation. And this is a penalty regardless if they're holding the ball or not. The only way to legally defend in this position is from behind is for the player to touch only the ball or the hand of the attacking player. So if they touch anything else that does not allow the player to continue the action and to possibly shoot and score, that foul is called regardless of the player, if the player is holding the ball or not. So a couple other little notes. This does not mean that this is an automatic call. Does not mean that every time that there's contact, it's considered a foul and it must be awarded with a penalty shot. The idea and the spirit is still behind the advantage rule and allowing the player to shoot a natural shot and get a natural goal off is the idea and the intent behind all levels of the sport. So the referees are to withhold their whistle and allow the player to keep progressing forward and continuing the action is the language that we use, and
and FINA uses as well. Once that action is no longer able to continue because of that foul, then the penalty is awarded by the referee. So one last point to clarify before we get into the videos here is that you don't get an and one, and there's two different situations on this particular play that one you do get a penalty and one you don't. So if, for example, the first example is you absorb a lot of contact, the player from behind is absorbing contact, is being fouled, but they're still in control of the ball, they're still going towards the cage, they break away from that contact, that foul, they shoot and they miss, or they shoot a legitimate shot and the goalie blocks the shot. We don't go back and say, oh, because you were just fouled, now you get your penalty as well. So you don't get both. You don't get an and one. But the flip side, the situation where you do get one. So let's say, for example, I'm being fouled, same exact situation. I'm being fouled. But then as I'm shooting, let's say you hit my arm and that causes my shot to go out or to get a poor shot, or my shot now I shoot into the water. That had a direct effect on my shot, that foul. In that particular case, you do get a penalty. You don't get the one previous where you absorb the contact, you break free, you get your legitimate shot off, you miss it, you go high, whatever the case may be. That one you don't go back. So just a little bit of a difference there. I know that could be a little confusing, but wanted to clarify that. Before we go into videos, maybe I can ask, let's play some videos and then we can take some questions so that maybe your question could be answered while we're watching some of these videos. Let me stop my screen share, go back to YouTube. Okay. Oh, no, that's not it. That's not what I want to do. So we're going back up to, on our list to, oh, no, not that. Go back. Okay. Stop that one. We are going to correct penalty number 1 here. One more time. I think this is the clearest video that we have to show this rule, right? So the player is clearly in possession, is going towards the cage, is inside 6 meters, and the player from behind pulls their arm down, which does not allow the player to continue the action, and then a penalty foul was awarded. So this is like the most perfect example that we can give in this particular new rule. Previously, this wouldn't have been a penalty, but now with this new rule, even with the ball in hand, it is a penalty because the defender did not touch the ball or the hand. They actually grabbed the arm. So, Sandy, you want me to take a couple questions now? Maybe play a couple of videos? How
I think we're caught up.
Oh, caught up? Okay.
Yeah.
I've got one. Oh no,
Okay.
That one just disappeared.
Okay. Let's go to the next one.
You know what? There was one I wanted to address, Sandy, and it was in regard to, and I don't know if somebody deleted it after the fact, but it was JV water polo and the way that shot clocks are set for that. And maybe Sandy wants to turn off her NFHS ears, but keep in mind that the NFHS rule book, it is written for varsity play. So if you, with agreement with your opposing coach, want to play a 35-second shot clock or amend some of the things for players that are just learning the game, players that, you know, they may not have a swim season under their belt, so they're trying to watch 2 sports at once. It's a lot sometimes, right? We aren't all in the situation where we're getting club swimmers into the program or club water polo players into a program. It could be kids that are learning to be in the water and that comfort level for the very first time. in order to grow the sport, and if you need to make adjustments for those just learning, those novice players, you can do that. So you know, communicate with your officials, communicate with your opposing coaches ahead of time, but just know and understand that the NFHS rules at the varsity level are expected to be followed, and what you do in teaching other levels, that's at your discretion.
Well said, and I think I could say that with the NFHS hat on, especially.
Okay, good.
Well,
Ignore the NFHS rulebook.
especially related to junior varsity play.
Yeah.
I did want to point out to everybody that there's probably some kind of verbal feature associated with the Zoom Q&A that if they hear, I'm noticing some questions are disappearing, and I know I haven't asked them. So I'm not sure if the sender, the asker, has deleted their question, or if something is sensing that Levon answered it in some way. So if that happened to you, I apologize, and retype it or re-ask it. I don't know what's at play here, but I do have one question. Foul inside 2 meter, an attacking player puts the ball in play inside 2 meter before the referee communicates to move outside 2 meter, and ball is thrown to another player at 5 meter. Does the referee allow the free throw? No advantage at the 5 meter. Does the ball go back to the spot where the 2 meter two meter spot was to retake the free throw?
No, so the referee would just whistle to stop play, and they would just notify the player who just received the ball that it is your free throw to put the ball in play. So the defender would not be able to attack. They would point to them, they would whistle, it's that, hey, it's your free throw right there. So that's why in the rules we changed it to on or outside, because we knew that does happen, right? So that before a referee is able to say, hey, back out, they'll pass the ball, and we don't. And once that ball is passed, we don't want to ever bring that ball back to any other location. So we just we say, hey, no, it's your free throw right there.
I think this is one of the questions that disappeared, so I better ask it very quickly. Yes, I understood that I was asking about if it was a ball under and the ball pops up in front of the player towards the other player. It's now an advantage for the counter. He should take off and the other player take the ball. Shouldn't there be if there is movement to the ball, the advantage player should keep it?
So Levon, this was in reference to the last clip you played, and it was the clip that referenced tactical fouls. And Robert's arguing that with both players having that ball underwater, that call could have gone either way. It could have been a foul for the offense. It could have been called as a turnover with a ball under. So, and I guess my response to him was, once it was called as a foul for the offense, that's when the defensive player could not commit the tactical foul, or it would be exclusion. So he's saying now in reference to that, if it was a ball under and the ball pops up in front of the player toward the other player, it would now be an advantage for the counter. So if it was a ball under, ball comes up in front of the player that's going the opposite direction.
Okay.
And I guess this is where the last portion comes in. Shouldn't there be a something? I think there might be a word missing. If there's movement to the ball, the advantage players should get to keep it.
He goes on to say, it seems like the man did not let go of the ball and the penalty was called. Normally the defender has the right to make contact if the ball was in the hand.
Right. So I'm not, to be honest with you, I can't even recall what the exact ball under foul was. I just recalled the reason why we were showing was because of after the foul was the throwing of the ball away, which would become a penalty within the last minute of the game. So in reference to should that have been a ball under or not, I would have to go back to relook it, because I just wasn't focused on that for that particular video. But what I would say to the question of again, just of whether if you are the player in the best position to play that ball, you must play that ball. And referees are not gonna they're not gonna be ticky-tack with this, right? Just because one player is 6 feet away and then the other player is 5 feet away, the player that was 5 feet away doesn't get it, but the player 6 feet away gets it. We're not gonna be so punitive, right? So that's not what we're concerned about. We're concerned about is something obvious, and if it's obvious, then the player that's nearest and most readily available to take that free throw must take that free throw. And if that means that they have to stop their counter to go get it, unfortunately, that's what it means. Because again, that could be seen as creating an advantage when the rule says that you clearly have to get that ball. So, and if Robert, if you need clarification, if we didn't get it exactly right, please, I would rather get it right. So ask away.
Levon, he has 3 more questions. He said if he could speak, and I said, well, I'd like to let you speak, but probably need to let all 70 or 170 or 150 people speak. So perhaps we can clarify it at a different time.
Okay, we can come back. We can finish the penalty from behind, and we can come back. No problem.
Okay.
Really quick on the clarification of the last minute of play, the slide specified the last minute of the 4th quarter and the last minute of second overtime, but did not specify the last minute of sudden victory, which would seem to indicate tactical fouls committed in sudden victory at any time would result in a penalty shot. And can we clarify this, please?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought it was, if that's not included, that's my mistake. It is the final minute of all 3 of those periods. So 4th, second overtime period, and any sudden death victory period. It's the final minute of each of those 3. So if that was, that's a big oversight on my part. So
Oh, no.
That's all we have, except for Robert.
Okay.
I think he got it. I think he got it on the second part of yours. So I think we're good.
Okay. Doug suggested when asking questions about videos, please say the title of the video, which makes sense.
That would help very much. Okay, perfect. Moving on to the next one is incorrect penalty. Okay, one more time. Okay, so if you remembered in the definition of the rule, we mentioned that it has to be in a probable goal situation for this particular rule to be in effect. So what are the circumstances around a probable goal, right? So 2 for sure things. So you have to be inside of 6 meters, and you have to be swimming or facing or swimming towards the cage for it to be a probable goal situation. 2 other considerations that affect probable goal is if you have other defenders nearby who are eligible or able to play the ball, and also a poor shooting angle also is considered not a probable goal situation. So in this particular case, because this defender slid over and now this player has another defender between them and the goal, this is no longer considered a probable goal situation. So in this case, this player from behind is allowed to tackle the player and hit the elbow, hit the arm, pull the arm to get that ball without it being a foul. So that part of the game has not changed, right? So just like anywhere in the field of play, if I hit your elbow or I pull your arm down to steal that ball because you're holding the ball, I'm allowed to do that. It's only when you're in a probable goal situation that I need to touch only the ball or the hand, or risk me being called a penalty on me. So wanted to clarify that because that's crucial. Because if you do see a situation and the referee does not call a penalty, it might be because of one of these reasons, right? So a poor shooting angle, another player nearby, that could be the case. So if there's no questions on that one, anything on that?
They're asking if this would be an ordinary at best.
It would not, because they're holding the ball. Remember, if you're holding the ball, it cannot be a foul unless it's an over aggressive or violent foul. And that's where we would would, of course, we would call an exclusion. But holding the ball means that you are able to be tackled and the ball could be stolen from you.
So if I have inside water with a defender on my back, the chasing defender can grab and make contact as long as another defender is in front of him.
If you are holding the ball, yes. If you're holding the ball, the player is, so let's say if this player wasn't holding the ball, let's say this player was just swimming, let's say dribbling, and there was another defender in front of them, the player from behind fouls, it could very well be an exclusion. That would be an exclusion because they are fouling from behind. But once you're holding that ball, I'm allowed to tackle you to steal that ball, like in this case.
That's all I have.
Okay. Correct penalty number 2.
Hi, bud.
So again, from behind, player hits the arm, ball goes to the side. This is a penalty foul. You cannot hit the arm. Yep. Got ahead of me real quick there. Any questions on this? I know you would have to be typing pretty quickly, but I can always give it a split second to see if there's anything before we move on. I think this is pretty straightforward as well. Again, you have to hit the ball or the hand in this particular situation. So,
Was the ball in the hand?
was the ball in the hand? It looks like it, yeah. And then when it looks like when their arm was struck is when the ball was freed. So,
Gotcha.
okay.
Why did they change it from not being able to hit the arm to knocking the ball anymore?
Can you repeat that, Angela? I'm sorry.
Sure. Why did they change it from not being able to hit their arm to knock the ball anymore?
I think it's because the penalty is the biggest foul in our game. It's the highest foul. So I think this was to make it more fan friendly and to get us closer to, let's say, soccer, which you're in the box, you get some kind of contact. So I think by hitting the arm, it's a visible foul to everyone. So if you were just a regular person, normal person who walks into a pool deck, you've never seen water polo, and here it is, you're seeing a player trying to shoot and they get hit on the arm and they don't score, a person would say to themselves, how is that not a foul, right? So I think the governing body thought this was to kind of align us with other sports. That would make sense, right? So they put the onus on the defender to play very clean defense, and that clean defense is if they hit the ball or the hand, which would seem like hitting the ball anyway, right? We consider the ball and the hand one and the same here in the United States. So that would give the illusion of this is clean defense and not a foul type deal. So
that's exactly what I would have thought.
Yeah.
In the outside.
There you
So-
go.
We have a question regarding, so why the penalty, it's good defense?
It was good defense until the rule changed. Now it's considered a foul, and they want it to be considered a foul because they want it to make, again, they just want it to make more sense to the average spectator.
So like the NCAA ball has to be out of the hand?
NC2A did not adopt this particular rule, so NC2A would be the same as how it was done previously, which means that you would be able to hit the arm, and that would not be a foul in NC2A. Okay. Moving on. We're good, Sandy?
Yeah, yep.
Awesome. Correct, no penalty, 1. Okay, again. Okay, and so this video was, of course, used to show good patience by the referee. So there was contact, there was impeding from behind, but of course, the player still hasn't control of the ball. And as long as they have control of the ball and there's no risk of them losing that control, the referee should exercise patience to see if a natural goal could be scored. In this particular case, a natural goal was scored, so there was no need to call a penalty there. So this is the ideal situation, right? So we just wanted everybody to get into the habit of, it's not contact. We're not calling, this is not basketball. We're not calling every single foul that we see. We still have an advantage rule. We still are able to, we're a contact sport. We're still able to have contact. But once that contact affects my ability to continue and to continue the action and get that shot, that's when that violation comes in. Okay. One more time, just in case. Okay.
But the official call a penalty if the natural is not scored after the fact?
No, see, in this particular case, that would be considered an and one. So even though the player is being impeded from behind, it's at the referee's discretion on whether how much that impeding had the effect on the shot. If the referee believes that that impeding was enough that they were, you know, their shot was affected by this fouling or impeding, then yes, it would be. But we can't have a situation where a referee allows that contact to go, the player shoots and misses, and then they get the benefit of doubt and gets, 2 seconds later, whatever the case may be, then a penalty is awarded. We don't do that. So in this particular case, these are obviously, these are professional players. In this particular case, it didn't look like the impeding from behind had effect on their shooting capability, and it looked like if that goalie blocked that shot, it would not be considered a penalty. So we would not go back and award that penalty. Hope that made sense. Okay, if there's no other questions, we can move on. Is there one? Oh, okay.
You're muted, Sandy.
We're good, Sandy?
Yes, yes, sorry.
Okay, cool. Let's see. It's next one is incorrect penalty 2. I stopped it before. Okay, so this is an incorrect penalty because the player receiving the ball is not facing the cage. Number one is actually facing more towards the goal line, is going towards the goal line. So that's number one. And then also you do have 2 players nearby that are making a play on the ball. So I think the biggest key is that they're not facing the cage, number one. And that right away should be a signal to everyone that this is not a probable goal situation and would not be a penalty, and the new rule would not take an effect here. What the more appropriate call would have been to exclude that center defender, which came over the top and sunk the player while trying to steal the ball. That would have been the more appropriate call. So let's watch one more time. Yeah, right there, going over the top to steal the ball. Should have been an exclusion on that defender. But definitely no penalty. Need to be facing the cage or swimming towards the cage for it to be considered that new rule. So, questions on this one? No. Okay. Correct. No penalty 2. So sorry, this one doesn't have video. And then just for the purposes of us, FINA on the bottom, if you notice, they had wrote that the attacker is outside the goalpost. That has no bearing on us, on what we do. It's either inside the 2, I'm sorry, inside the 6, and you're facing the cage or going towards the cage. So being outside the goalpost, that does not matter to us, at least. So in this particular case, it's not clear that they're facing the cage, and there's also a second defender nearby, so this would not be considered a probable situation. So in this particular case, it's a steal, and it's a correct no penalty call. So one more time.
So in an incorrect penalty 2, that would still be an injection, but not a 5-meter penalty shot?
So that was the previous one, I believe, was that one. So yes, I would say that the previous video, the correct call would have been to exclude the center defender for coming over the top to make the steal. Anything else? No, we're good on this one. Okay. Let's go to penalty too early, 1. Again, unfortunately, no video, no audio in this video, but what you can see is that the player has a lot of daylight, a lot of room to work with. You know, I think we can all argue on whether the player embellished a little bit there, or whether they're being pulled back or not. But again, it is not about contact. It's about an actual foul that affected that player's ability to continue to go towards the cage and to continue to play and possibly get a shot off. But in this case, way too early to be called a penalty. One more time. Definitely embellishing. Referee should have let that one go a little bit. But any questions on this one? No. Okay. I think we have like 1 or 2 more here. Correct penalty 3. This one would probably have been a penalty even with the older rules, to be honest with you. Let's watch it one more time. So from behind, of course, the player's facing the cage and a lot of contact, a lot of impeding from behind. And also it looks like they actually hit the arm when the player was trying to get that shot off. So in this particular case, definitely a penalty foul. Any questions on this one? Okay. This might be our last one. Correct. No penalty 3. One more time. Yeah, so again, this is an example of there's a lot of contact and the player was able to absorb a lot of that contact and got a shot off. And this is one of the examples where you would not go back, a referee would not go back and issue a penalty because the player absorbed it, they got the shot off, and they just missed. It would have to be the case of the referee making a call would have to be pretty extreme when it comes to going back. And of course, it has to be clear that foul affected the shot and the trajectory of the shot, the way the shot was. You know, there's a lot of bearing on that. But this is an example of us not going back and issuing the penalty.
Is the offensive player being penalized for being able to absorb contact?
Is the offensive player being penalized for, I'm sorry, what was the last
For
part?
being able to absorb the contact?
Well, I don't think they're being penalized, but because I think by the player continuing and trying to, I think they're the ones signaling to the referee that they are trying to score trying to score this goal. And so I wouldn't necessarily think that that is penalizing them. I'm just thinking that they are absorbing the contact and they're choosing to continue and trying to get that goal, a natural goal for themselves. Any other questions?
Not at this time.
Okay. Oh, I lied. So maybe there was one more. Okay. Here we go. Too early. Yeah. Unfortunately, we saw too many of this when this new rule was first introduced in the international scene. Let's watch one more time. As you can see, the player comes up and is going to shoot and score a goal, and then the referee calls a penalty and stops the player from shooting. So again, this is not the intent of the rule. This is not what's supposed to happen. So please, please, please do not think that any kind of contact should result in a penalty. That is not the case. Unfortunately for us, we're continuing to use these videos as education to our referees, but our referees also had trouble on the USA water polo side when this rule first came out. We would have 15 or 20 penalties in a game, and again, that is not the idea. That is not the intent of this rule. Yeah, just wanted to clarify that.
I've got one. The idea of not allowing the quote and one unquote. Oh, it went. Christine must have answered that.
Okay.
Never mind.
Oh, yeah, but if not, we can always come back to it. So that was it for the videos. Let me go back to the PowerPoint. I think we're almost done here.
We're on the home stretch, guys. Just a few more slides.
Yeah. I need to stop the screen. Or wait, I think I was good. Why did I do that? Okay, so just to make sure I didn't miss one before. Okay, so that was the attacking player from behind. And the last couple of slides are basically just the points of emphasis. The points of emphasis across the country is going to be these new rules, right? So we have the putting the ball in play, like we already mentioned. So we already went through this, but just wanted to inform everybody what the points of emphasis is for NFHS and also for the referees. Is the correct way of putting the ball in play. Here it is one more time. The new methods of scoring is a point of emphasis. Quarter throws, foul outside of 6 meters, of course. So one more, just to kind of clarify further, just so everybody, we're on the same page here. So any restart outside of 6 meters, you can put the ball live and shoot. Any restart inside, 2 players must intentionally play the ball for a goal to be scored. Anytime that the ball is removed from the water and it goes back into the field of play, it cannot be shot directly. The only time where it could be shot directly after a referee pulls the ball out of the water is to correct a clock error after a foul outside of 6 meters. So referee blows a foul with 1 second left on the shot clock. The shot clock operator fails to stop the clock. Buzzer goes off for the shot clock violation. The referee pulls the ball out, corrects the shot clock, puts 1 second back on the clock, returns the ball to the player outside of 6 meters. That player is now eligible to shoot directly and score a goal. But every other situation, if the ball is removed from outside of 6 and then returned outside of 6 to that same player, that player can put the ball live and then shoot and score. They can then swim anywhere and shoot and score. So depending on where the ball was and where it was removed and then returned. So like, for example, here's another little caveat that's kind of a strange situation. Corner throw. Corner throw is given, and the ball goes into the water to the player, but the referee realizes that a cap is missing. There's no advantage situation, but a cap is missing. So the referee calls the ball out of the water to fix the cap. The cap is fixed. Because the referee called for the ball out of the water, that player is no longer to shoot that direct shot anymore. Now that direct shot is gone because that ball was moved out of the water. Once the referee puts the ball back into the water, that player is eligible to put the ball live and then shoot, but they just cannot shoot directly. So a little caveat there, but the referee taking the ball out supersedes the corner throw. So that's why you don't get that direct shot anymore. So
Levon, we had a question. Can you kick the ball to your hand to put it in play?
no, you cannot. If you kick the ball to your hand, once you catch it, you have not put the ball in play yet. Yeah, because you still need separation with ball and hand. So, good question.
I got nothing.
Okay, moving on. Of course, the 6 meter new 6 meter rule is a point of emphasis, and it's going to be pretty difficult. We ask for patience with everyone because it's something new. It's something it goes against what the referees are taught, right? You know, ball in hand means no foul, so it's a tough adjustment. So hopefully everybody will exercise some patience there while we get on board. Leaving the field of play, like we mentioned, to minimize the risk of the players. That's a point of emphasis. I think we have one more. Goalkeeper privileges, like we talked about. They're eligible to cross half now and be part of a shootout if that state permits. And that's it for me. Thank you, everybody. It was a pleasure. It's always a pleasure. If I can take any other questions that you missed and we want to come back to, is there anything before I close out my segment?
On a corner throw, the player does not have to pop up the ball in order to shoot.
Right. So in corner throw, you have two options, and the same options are the same as it would be for a foul outside of 6. You can shoot directly right away once you get the ball. Or if you don't shoot directly, you can put the ball in play and then shoot, or swim and then shoot. You've essentially made yourself live.
You're receiving lots of love in chat. Everyone's thanking you, Levon.
Wow,
So-
thank you.
So this is the first time, as I shared, that we did this. Levon was an absolute rock star. Just in the Q&A, he's answered 106 questions in a little bit less than 2 hours. Levon, you're awesome. Thank you so much.
I thank you guys very much. I saw many of the names on the chat, and I miss all of you. Hopefully, even the coaches yelling at me. I miss all of you. Hopefully, we'll see each other soon on the pool deck. Thank you, everybody.
So, you know, what happens from here really is dependent upon the membership. And if we receive word from state associations or committee members that additional Zooms might be beneficial, Zooms don't cost anything, you know, and we're happy to do that, particularly when the entire country gets back to participation, you know, and there might be an unanticipated need at that point as well. So we were just thrilled to be able to do this and to have the video to help illustrate this. And Levon came in for that as well. Couple of things. We will post this on the NFHS YouTube channel. And the beauty of a webinar, even though you couldn't speak, we have captured all of your contact information. So we will send you the link to the presentation. There may be some other things as we were going through this meeting. Christine asked about, is there a record of the chat? I know with a meeting, we will get a record of the chat and all the questions, and I'm assuming that we will with the webinar as well. So we can post that. We are still working on getting some permission to post those videos, and we'll work towards putting some other videos out there if we can't obtain that permission, but we want to make sure we cross all the T's and dot all the I's with that. as far as that's concerned. So we're just really pleased that we maintain most of you and over these 2 hours. And I don't know, Christine, Levon, Angela, anything you want to say?
Yeah, just for those of you guys that are in California, if you ever have any questions, I'm the aquatics person in the southern section, but I'm always happy to answer questions for coaches and administrators within any section. So please contact me. You probably received an email from me kind of trying to promote this. I just thought it was really a good opportunity to connect. And again, these new rules are plentiful. And I just want to thank you in advance for your patience with your kids, with yourselves, but especially with the officials who are trying to learn all of this. Remember, if they're on a high school deck, a FINA deck, an NCAA deck, you know, a 10 and under deck, and it's a lot. So I think this movement in high school to try to get more toward some of the FINA rules is a good step for us. Hopefully, you know, some of the other governing bodies are going to follow suit, and we can get on the same page with ourselves and really make this great. But thanks for what you do for kids. Thank you for your patience. And I promise you, we are trying to get this stuff going. And California Department of Public Health, that's those are our people right now that are we're kind of at their mercy. So just continue thinking good thoughts for the kids and for our season. Be safe and be well. Thank you.
One last piece of information, there are resources posted on the water polo page of the NFHS website. So if you go to nfhs.org, go to the drop down sports and activities, you will see water polo. So there's a big diagram of the pool and markings. They're a little altered PowerPoint, a little bit different than what you saw here is there for downloading. Lots of resources that you could use as you're instructing your officials and your kids. So please feel free to go there. You'll receive within 24 hours a link to the posting, and we'll just kind of stay tuned and listen and see what you guys would like to see happen next.
Sandy, one more question. Someone asked where the COVID-19 protocols were posted, some of those guidelines for swimming and aquatics.
That's a really good question. Those were sent to executive directors, and I will tell you that that's a list of guidelines. The Water Polo Rules Committee came up with those guidelines, but each state association determines how they're going to disseminate and what they're going to disseminate to their own schools. And so that's why it's really not posted anywhere. When somebody mentioned having a discussion or a roundtable about what different states are doing, I know that is informally going on right now. I see some emails flying around. Hey, what's Pennsylvania doing? What's Michigan doing? That kind of thing. Maybe that's a roundtable discussion in the future. But as far as a list of posted items, you will not find those on the NFHS website, just because we want executive directors of the state associations to have the autonomy to determine what those should be. All right, and with that, we will go ahead. Sorry, Christine.
Sorry, one last question for Levon. Corner throw, timeout, ball back in the water. Can a player take a direct shot?
No, because the timeout supersedes the corner throw. So anytime you remove the ball from the water and you return it, you only have the option of putting the ball in play and then shooting it. And after a timeout or a corner throw is the only time within the 6 meter area that you're able to put the ball live and then shoot and score. So no direct shot, but yes, you can put the ball in play and shoot and score.
All right, thanks.
Great. All right, we're going to sign off now, and hopefully you guys will have a good rest of the week and look forward to that link. All right,
Thank you.
have a good night.
You too.